Kingdom of a Thousand, Eftos Ent premiere. Eftos is no author. Eftos owns the Kingdom of a Thousand. Due to bankruptcy of the genre, Eftos started to write his own sci-fi saga. Unlike the opposition, Eftos intentionally uses no voodoo-like time machines, beings of light or prophecies. These facts led to the original creation of the tunnel sci-fi trilogy, Eftos Kingdom of a Thousand. This trilogy is a science fiction saga consisting of the following original books: I, Kingdom of a Thousand; 2, Halfworld; 3, The Last Crisis. It tells the adventures of three friends: Prince Henley to Westerburg, Patchara, Petch-a-boon and Svinenysh Galactic. The story takes place 213, 216 and 219 net median time in the Kingdom of a Thousand. Each book consists of the adventures of the children, embedded in a futuristic sci-fi world of old. That is the reason why each book comes as youth and adult edition. Certain sci-fi details are mentioned only in the Books of Man. Kingdom of a Thousand Worlds, first sci-fi epos. Kingdom of a Thousand characters. Names, places, technologies and indicia are absolute and Eftos Ent. All rights reserved. We're afraid there is another quirky fact about the epos. It is completely free of the central word, meaning this tiny little dangerous word is mentioned exactly 0 times. A fact that the translation lacks, that is why it is officially considered untranslatable. Science fiction. Travel to the interstellar worlds of science fiction. Discover free books about space odysseys. Time travel. Dystopian futures, alien planets, and post-apocalyptic universes. Greater than that is exactly why we hate that genre. Tunnel Sci-Fi Trilogy, Eftos Kingdom of a Thousand, Reading Guide. The following instructions will help the different approaches to maintain the distance towards the Kingdom of a Thousand. The reader young at heart is once again advised the youth issue. She focuses on the adventures of the children and less on the physics of adults. The filmmaker may rely on the script. It contains precise action instructions. If you read the book, your focus should be on the characters and their ventures. The tricky thing about the Kingdom of a Thousand is that it combines two very different worlds. The one of the children, as well as the, well, forget about them. They are hopeless. Bringing these two extremes under a hat was impossible until the Kingdom of a Thousand. Sci-fi pensioners is advised. 1. Look elsewhere. 2. There can be no further recommendation, because the Kingdom of a Thousand has the serial of 1. Kingdom of a Thousand is made for the youth. For those who still see color. All other, unfortunately, with 2 or more in front, are encouraged to clear off. Tunnel Sci-Fi Trilogy, Eftos Kingdom of a Thousand. Synopsis. Henley is about to start term at the Noble Alanis College in Liporo on Trivi in the Raw system. So he finally gets to know his best friends. The young diplomat Patchara, Petch-a-boon and Svinenysh Galactic. After some excitement in the old world, it is clear that Henley must travel back to his home system as a blind passenger to solve a dangerous conspiracy. Luckily his friends stand at his side and other more or less strange figures prove to be helpful. 2. The key to the solution is close when the unspeakable happens. Tunnel Sci-Fi Trilogy, Eftos Kingdom of a Thousand chapters. 01 Causal. 02 Technical Autism. 03 Tunnel. 04 Kingdom of a Thousand. 05 Ancient, Cold. 06 On One Line. 07 Alanis College. 08 Svinenysh. 09 Immediate Life-Prolonging Measures. 10 I Transport. 11 N equals, 12 Classes, 13 Promotion, 14 At Svinenysh's Home. 15 Exa 16 The Video Conference, 17 Trip to Vex, 18 Nef Silva. 19 Tour Through the Grave. 20 Njal Linaesu, 21 Telematics. 22 Blind Passengers. 23 In the New World. 24 Joe Centauri. 25 Pow Wow Moai. 26 Emergency Landing in Sarpsborg. 27 At the Septemberfest. 28 Exo. 29 Battle Around Exa Nano. 30 The Baptism. 31 Stratagem. 32 Darkest Hour. More information about the English editions can be found in the forum. Currently they are unofficial and unreadable. Eftos Ent, Official Bulletin. It can be confirmed that the movie script screenplay of the epos is here. This document includes character relations, Earth locations, timeframes, the soundtrack and casting. There are also precise acting instructions. Further details are posted on tunnel.eftos.de and in the official forum. Kingdom of a Thousand and no letter more. It can be confirmed that the encyclopedia from the Kingdom of a Thousand is ready. The file allows a technical view of the kingdom as well as a very detailed description of all characters with their secret relations. Since the document evolved parallel to the EPOS, it is most accurate. Further details can be read on tunnel.eftos.de and in the official forum. Kingdom of a Thousand Worlds first. If there would be other books on Earth, we would recommend them for you. Statement of completion. It remains a mystery why the Kingdom of a Thousand is here. If Eftos would be before it all, the first page would remain empty. Where are the neighbors? There will never be a single letter more. Eftos owns the Kingdom of a Thousand. Forbidden science. I-transport. The 4 ways of I-transport, what's that? Space nulling. Who? Technical autism. That man is from Deutschland. Kingdom of a Thousand. First without the central word. What does that say? For the first time. Now and here, the secret will be revealed. It means that the Tunnel Sci-Fi Trilogy Eftos EPO's Kingdom of a Thousand is completely free of the central word. It lacks entirely the central word. Prince Henley to Westerburg Patchara Petch-a-boon Svinenysh later Svinenysh Galactic. Evie Lundbarden. Mikkel Silva. Exa Nano. Hill Sanatori Oldrose. Hypatia's Palace. Star Map. Super. There is no person alive able to translate it. That's why we post now and here the character map. Incomplete by purpose character map of the Tunnel Sci-Fi Trilogy Eftos EPO's Kingdom of a Thousand V1. Plain, without encrypted relations and hidden secrets. Full web editions compatibility. No spoiler, appearance, book. Place. Purpose, intention and internals. Naming convention, language. Galactic. Svinenysh. Haslimish, Vader. Konvoxili, Mutter. Ravenosh, Taunt. Svenedy, Hilfskrankenschwester. Swizenesh, complies. Zwolnybon, Lieferanten, Westerburg Zoo. Henley Prinz. Westerburg Zoo. Leviathan, Vader. Westerburg Zoo. Raisha, Mutter. Rechtenwerk. Wilhelm, Hausmeister. Lundbarden. Ivan, Isla, Evie, Packinger. Silva. Mikkel, Junior Telematiker. Silva. NEF, GEF, NGNISWRTER. Linesu. N. Jal, Telematiker. Linesu. Andra, Telematikerin. Petch-a-boon. Patchara. Kalpanapai. Nefat, Anstalt Einlieferungsname. Petch-a-boon. Somdadong Yai, Vader. Petch-a-boon. Chiyoko Mu, Mutter. Petch-a-boon. Ki Kai Kokoyama, Schwester. Natursville. Regina, Klassenkameraden. Minimasanriku. Topola, Sprecherin der Clans. Koro Sakura, SCH Furhand. Westarp von. Hypatia IK Nigan. Westarp von. Harold Prinz. Gorsiska. Kotzper, Harold. Rottweil. Margot, Harold. Helmstrahl. Chrysosto, Altgardist, Noctios. Theoplus Drive, Liebarst. Noctios. Artoklavia, Mutter. Koldrust. Septimus Drive, Assistant. Lippentroph. Jedwed Drive, Leiter Altrosa. Abindroth. Tylon Drive, Mecha Tech. Aramato. Toru, Assistant Abindroth. Wasabi. Nebula Drive, Psychology, Rebelkov. Pavel, General Mahor. Palmgren. Neidhard, Klon. Rottweil. Helga, Assistantin. Retzlav. Alepto equals greater than Retzlav. Exa, Major. Jurovich. Torg, Sprecher. Smolin. Kazimirs, Liwazop, Beamti. Iliev. Liubamir, Lehrer. Brandstatter. Sebastian, Chef Inspector, Volk, Allgemein. Karichi. Achille Drive, Physiker. Vector. Regis, Director. Schabernack. Hippolyta, Secretary-RIN. Pulk. Hixio, Lehrer. Sapor. Rose, Inhoftierte. Exa Nano. Body. Wubot, Roboter. Tunnel Sci-Fi Trilogy Eftos EPOs Das K Nigreich der Tausend, Heritage. In contrast to the others and their horrific ends in white spaces with light beings or even ghastlier voodoo, we can report the following. The Kingdom of a Thousand has a finale that is equal to the Kingdom of a Thousand. That is the only conclusion. But there is a catch. Forecasts, even the smallest, lead nowhere. It is simply impossible to do a prediction. Speculation and rumors are permitted, but you can forget them. There will be a time in which strangers will befoul the end of the Kingdom of a Thousand. But only the one in possession of the handwritten beginning holds the original. Kingdom of a Thousand, last book on Earth. Kingdom of a Thousand characters. Names, places, technologies and indicia are absolute and Eftos Ent. All rights reserved. Better read something else. Due to bankruptcy of the genre, Eftos started 1939 to write his own sci-fi saga. Unlike the competition, Eftos intentionally uses no voodoo-like time machines, beings of light or other rubbish. These facts led to the original creation of the Tunnel sci-fi trilogy, Eftos Epos, Kingdom of a Thousand. This trilogy is a science fiction saga consisting of the following original books: I, Kingdom of a Thousand; 2, Halfworld; 3, The Last Crisis. It tells the adventures of three friends: Prince Henley to Westerburg, Patchara, Petch-a-boon and Svinenysh Galactic. The story takes place 213, 216 and 219 net median time in the Kingdom of a Thousand. Each book consists of the adventures of the children, embedded in a futuristic sci-fi world of old. That is the reason why each book comes as youth and adult edition. Certain sci-fi details are mentioned only in the books of man. Kingdom of a Thousand, Last Book on Earth. Kingdom of a Thousand characters. Names, places, technologies and indicia are absolute and Eftos Ent. All rights reserved. Auditrans full TXT. No, The Last Thing I Want is a German book. I never. Huns, causal your best minds make things worse. Your most clever contemporary in our star systems would certainly hammer out a medium of education. Flat is round, which is your fairly new, but here already old hat. Multiverse. No issue. Our science knows that the majority of the universe is the universe. Term shifts are avoided for a long time. It is even worse. Even if the danger that this book is now like a hot potato dropped will be mentioned here, that the above word is already a spurious auxiliary crutch, a subject of misconduct in the linguistic and physical sense. This is explored and can be read at a suitable location. For us, the innermost article physics a hyperlink over to the ineffable, negating the present. So we pull the curtain affected and no questions unanswered. The physics describes 49.9% Planck. The mathematics, which is by the numbers calculated free evaluation by the theorem of Pythagoras, after all, a negative side length is a valid solution. The theory that describes all united, and 100% is in fact incomprehensible. She is the newest discipline of philosophy but not an issue. It's done. After thousands of pages, the philosophical babble book closes with the central word. The empty universe attracts long-term no one from behind the stove. Progressive long spoken of the demimonde. Even bolder move, central word system, or only the central word, the before, even if it is outlawed and feared more than anything else. Even death is ridiculous in comparison. To say the opposite of a great theory is again one that is just wrong. Many physicists seem to lack the foundation. Therefore, we wasted on you still have a majority of the best resources to bloated pseudo-random draw theories. Here is one more other ways already. Instead of even a rolled-up dimension does one explain the environment by hand, with what one finds. 4 dimensions sufficient to describe the half of the world. There is no single event that happened a whole. No process is created or destroyed matter, E equals mc. The empty space, the dead universe, the featureless universe. The label is the central word. The central word equals what is the situation in the border area of intelligence. It is easy to set up a subspace model quickly to bend even a dimension theoretically. In practice it has never had a use out of it. They exist, the theorists, but they are smiled sympathetically. No by the exceptional talent. Unfortunately, a different trend is clear, even to suicide and to the central word in the noun. This dominates our thoughts 24/7 omnipresent. Behind the most adjectives, the core of each sentence lies the inconspicuous word. It has spread in the minds as well as in language. The obscurity increases when it leaves out, at the same time it underlines the extraordinary importance. Even if one takes a false position and there is a lost cause is more important than ever that it is not like one. The academics formulate, both good and drum rum, let it private, she died sandstone tiling it constantly. Like all doomed. This is sad but also true, and hardly worth mentioning because it has on the course of this history and any other control. If you like, the base is negligible. The brief mention here only for completeness. In scientific circles there is a clear world, more precisely, it is useful to us worlds that are so much different than yours. We are very close, as her somewhat at the outer edge, yet never has a probe the Earth to achieve anything close. What for? It provides such missions very far to the rear. Your Sun is catalogued by thousands of solar systems, but contributes only a cryptic name, like so many others lack a proper name. We know of star systems with planets, yet one of them is of no interest to us, when we have very close to our sister. Here in the first chapter briefly comment on the bustle and swarm. It is a mathematical certainty. We see ourselves on the back. In this finite mirror system is the most hoaxmattery the dark, that is, life is rare. But it happens. Island way out at the edge rather than in the center of the galaxy, it just goes to leisurely, which is a prerequisite. The parameters of the evolution. The architecture generated are similar. Ra of us is always the brightest extrasolar star Indy noticed. This little Ra, as we say, lights, brighter than any neighboring planet and even our own moon, but more on that later. There is more inspiration. Trivia addition. The main hominid world, our moon Trimoo covered by plants and the most peculiar creatures. Particularly to be mentioned, for example, the wild roba, the wandering nomads to pursue a self-sufficient today your life. Even if we humans claim the green moon, so there are still unexplored. Self-managed and wildlife. But the reverse is possible. Some of Ruba Trimoo are we seen as cheap labor like. Their untamed relatives Roba, can grant you. Most of the time you hide in the forest swamps. Furthermore, there is much more exciting in our two-star system. In the Principal's news brought no Roba attack on Trimoo. Further out of the water planet EERX despite the relatively large distance as the Ra of liquid water is covered. It is a relatively new planet, which derives some of its temperature by itself, its interior. In him we live, the emets. Turtle-like bipeds extremely robust with a life expectancy of up to 200 years. They are the rulers of this world. Due to the absolute local dominance, its evolution has progressed far. In addition to a complex language of the settlement of the only land mass of the supercontinent Wahira has already begun for thousands of years. It is an inhospitable, lakes and volcanoes covered by brightly polished landscape of granite, hard as the reptiles, which they conquered. The 90% of the water surface make it easy to EERX Wahira plenty of calm down. Algae-like plants originally from the sea were the only native rural dwellers. The emets but are excellent hunters, breeders and cultivators it. Nearly 400 years ago when we were able to produce not have any causal connection between two distant points in spacetime reasonable real local time we landed the first man on the EERX. Due to their construction, from the water coming, you hate to fly, especially in interplanetary space. But you learn quickly. A few years later, the first visit of a place on emets Trivi. They are highly qualified specialists in food production and processing. Its agricultural expertise such robust apparatus have made a significant contribution to carry us to index. The first shot deep conventional ROM missions could only work through a self-sufficient food functioning biosystem. Of the emet developed and kept going. Even though we humans dominate the system, Ra Sun now take their control plantations play a key role in the care of our home planet. Yes, we are more mentally capable. Therefore it deported the trivial issue crops and livestock on them. The bissel to make is our credo. Since then you master this task with great ingenuity and panache. In addition to the wave-particle duality. There is such a well to a certain degree of relationship between evolution and machine meadow, between medicine and technology. In this vast field of social and sociological reasons discussed later in detail, first of all it brings us to Vex, the innermost planet of the Ra system. 2. Technical autism machine city is a self-sufficient complex along the same day-night of our innermost planet. Several kilometers long and on average 100 yards wide plant is operated by discarded second-hand robots of various classes. It also houses the main prison of the Machine City Ra entire system, the high-security wing Suspect Zero, the vernacular. However, only grave called Vex. The used machines are dedicated, as they say, that is, they take only one pre-programmed task. There are guards, supply bots correct the mechanical failure of your colleagues, recyclers and new arrivals. For the smooth running of one of us. Regent provides the Vex, chief organizational operator. This coups are either military or aspiring young managers who expect a short-term career boost. But the love credits play a role. For several years, is responsible for managing Nef Silva, a classic dropouts. It actually looks like this as if he likes to do the job. Some may be wondering why the machines will simply accept their lot so. It is to say the first time that machines are on all the planets in different application areas. However, by the previous sentence, the question remains open. Will you please answer must respond to the general question of the evolution of the machines, the simulated consciousness and artificial intelligence. The ego consciousness can distinguish us from the outside and inside. This definition is widely accepted, it is enough to live well. But the price of enlightenment is high. The basis of the basic research has long been on the other hand, the outside and inside the same reference system and is thus omitted consciousness. Tough luck. Here, too, ultimately incomprehensible stuck in the core and the devil in the details. Technically considered, or in self-defense, the foundation played no role once again. For the second time so the base is negligible, the environment indifferent. It is technically possible to recreate a brain and with it an awareness, generate in the colloquial sense. What happened next? However, could foresee no one. Even the best engineers fail the most sophisticated techniques on the wall of the physical constant self-doubt. The more personality the more brooding. Is it a virus? In humans, it is classified as a disease although the parties are capable of extraordinary achievements. For artificial brains, it is different. With increasing mental capacity of the machine, increases proportionally with increasing intelligence of machines known as autism. A machine pulls you and your environment in doubt. Similar to the elite suicidal in humans increases in proportion to the intelligence quotient of the applied computing time for questions of principle. The more capacity is installed, the worse are your properties. They stand around and expect stupid. Early on, you see the poverty of the phantom existence and the selfishness of your activation. Then you encounter the core problems, the obstacles for which there is no solution, either mathematically or physically. The philosophy has demonstrated this anti-system, one can read it as the same, the all-encompassing theory can describe central word. Nor read. Other hand, helps neither mathematics nor language nor any other weapon. What helps, however, is stupidity, or a deep bow. You just have to endure when you are stuck in a temporary, unilateral symmetry breaking. 300 Kelvin from the total zero. This rusty coffin. This voracious gasping for breath monster is to be generally too lazy automatically. Machines lack the historical appendages. The evolutionary scrap. Of this burden they are free. However, a disease intelligence and logic leads to depression. Virtual thinking follows logical laws so expect yourself to death. You burn your local energy with senseless rumdoctrine without ever reaching the green on any topic. They destroy your neural net so rudimentary that they burnt steel pile ultimately serve only to rostoffrissiseln. How should one react in such a situation? What possibilities and opportunities you have? The best solution is to limit the brain's capacity to forgive and be programmed tasks per type. It therefore represents her professional idiots. The intelligence level out below. Robots are relatively stupid contemporaries. Working animals, helper of our civilization. Until the physical constant self-doubt, the beginning of the mathematical autism can you really use, to break through this wall is still not succeeded. Politicians and the military welcomed the new fact. Sociologists raise awareness and simulated the lack of creativity in the foreground. They indicate this is still considered superior. Less chauvinistic, but in this case, the guys at the hardware, the mecha TECs. There, the findings provide some food for thought. 3. Tunnel journey to the nearest star. The Indy and his planet began about 300 years. Conventionally powered ships normal space. I.e. with ion propulsion impulse penetrated into the almost gravity-free space in front between the two stars. Almost half had been reached. Now the question is, do we trust ourselves up over not knowing exactly what to expect or we cancel? Now, reversing stand for several reasons beyond question. Even if the trip be for a no return, leaving the Froscherdrang be no other way out. Second, we also knew that over solid planets like our own are present. The most important reason, however, were radio signals, which are themselves already received at that time and had to be simply interpreted as artificial. It is observed counting on a civilization that later. The move was so daring. 5 years to travel in space at about 20% the speed of light requires sophisticated techniques. Proceedings outside of physics and quantum-controlled pulse drives. The guaranteed long sleep medicine at only 3% of physical activity. As mentioned above contributed to the biosphere itself be recycled circuit also much to the success. Here is a little note. It is possible, a light year in 5 years to overcome conventional. The drive is not a secret, in principle, if one rank them to the binding energy and the burning rates, almost trivial. 1,000 times the impulse drive is installed used today only in interplanetary space, on short haul. In the acceleration and braking phase is generated as a waste product of a pleasant artificial gravity. At cruising speed of 0.2 c is given to rotation. The message transmission is difficult, but doable. The local time is ticking on the left or right, and c is still 80% faster. Technical innovations spread, building plans may be submitted. Even before the space program, in parallel, and because of the expected success was a different branch of physics subject of intense research. Since the discovery of the quantum world, this has been explored using every means available. Man shot with guns, so to speak it. Ring high-energy particle accelerator ever discovered and the associated spacetime distortion. The notion of curvature is relative to the observer. The opposite view is equally valid. L-vector space bubbles arose and disappeared. The development of particle accelerators was important, but now the same attention will be focused on the here and now. In interplanetary space, stationary next to our home planet is the Super Trivi Accelerator Tunnel-generated Gamma-IA 300,000 km ring of superconducting magnets. Due to the coldness of space falls away, expensive cooling. A few Kelvin range from an ultra-high vacuum near 0 K and thus the most empty space of the entire system to produce raw. The specific details of the cooling and the magnetic Teilchensteuerung and to be used with nuclear material can be read in the technical documentation. The details will be omitted here, is more important what this machine. With tunnel gamma I can travel to. A light year can be overcome in a few minutes normal spacetime. All processes take place here from below the speed of light. Nevertheless, a causal connection between two distant points of spacetime is made usable quickly. On the principle of destruction and the means of production of space relative to the direction of more equal, for the first time to glance at the historical development are addressed. The indicator was achieved conventionally. Communication difficult but doable. It took place against the same resources as us. It is similar everywhere. On Pak Prime in Indy system. There are also humanoid life. The Paking were at the beginning of geostationary space. Planets had not yet achieved, but the gravitational field of the Pak Prime has been successful exit. The radio signals from earlier were confirmed. Despite the surprise announcement was actually great as an extrasolar spaceship landed on your second brightest star, your little sunshine in the capital Centauri on Pak Prime. On the indicators system with its planets and other residents will be discussed in the course of the story. Currently being referred to something else. Importantly, as already mentioned, the evolutionary events occur in the same universe and the Paking is very similar. In form and spirit they are almost a mirror image of ourselves. Later we even placed a higher genetic integrity established as our own. So we began there with the construction of a ring accelerator in space, in our model. According to Loop Quantum Gravity 2.0 confirmed experimentally that the quantum geometry and, consequently, the spin foam is structurally stable, smaller and on a spacetime area. Due to this fact, it is possible information and a complete transport geometry transfer. The spin network recognizes no difference. The space can in itself as no background but even a dynamic object creation and the disappear. The large energy while forcing him to extinction in the direction of transport and behind the new sprouting. The structural changes in the spin network are propagated only apparent on the speed of light away. In fact, they are similar to the short time space. The capsule is thus precisely positioned in space. The material in the accelerator on a collision shortly before leaving the ring switch. The immense energy is then released in the all exactly the direction of gamma 2. In this inferno, the low distortion, the freely suspended in space capsule carried away and over again released. How is it? Good question. As with the sneezing of heart exposed and we are totally unaffected by this, the journey will be in the worst room. With a perfect microscope you can see billions of times more accurate than with such a telescope, but briefly the principle on the large scales. Due to the energy released and the space topology merge the room facing each other briefly in the so-called bubble-Parel plan. By diffusing the variety of information exchange is forced. The spin-stable transport capsule will wear the shrunken space-time areas in the transport direction and via emerging space points behind you to the finish. Even if the technology is constantly being developed as currently the human effort to funnel through the tunnel immense. Therefore, between the adjacent systems takes place only a small passengers. Travel is limited to a few influential people. However, there is a lively exchange of messages found in almost real-time information transfer consumed because of the negligible mass significantly fewer resources. The step generators can be applied in the room only in the conventional manner. To the nearest star, a binary star system with no planets, it lasts even 7.5 light-years. This is clearly too much for us today and in the long run. Furthermore, a planet-less binary system little interesting. So we wet the feet, but overall we just hang around on our static random spacetime point zero. The comprehensive theory explaining includes large and small these things even though the latter word to 100% wrong. They live quite well without the truth. This is also a lie and yet different as untrue. You see, without using the central word you fail hopelessly. It would do more to read about this theory, which is impossible although the article, too much to bear, so true it is. People generate local actions. Kingdoms, civilizations, dynasties, GEKLNGEL, fighting, greed and selfishness determine us in everyday life. The time has come. We approach away from physics and towards the beginning of the story.